Hello, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys. You are now entering Season 2 of the Swan Hockey Podcast. Swan Hockey is flying around the junior hockey world one episode at a time. You'll experience things dreams are made of, as well as things of terrible nightmares. Strap in, hold on, and enjoy the ride. And now, Swan Hockey.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Swan Hockey. We are in Season 2. I am Eric Swanick, and today we are joined by Roger Shannon. Roger, what is going on?
Oh, I wouldn't really know where to start other than we're in the off season of the junior league, and we got a lot of recruiting going on, a lot of planning, a lot of different things, and then a lot of spring and summer events that we're working on here up in Canada, and we're getting ready for third round of the playoffs. Looking at who's in there and how the Stanley Cup bid is going to work out.
Yeah, and so Roger and I first connected. It was probably so long ago we have to do math now. Probably almost 20 years ago now, which sounds crazy.
Yeah, it's been close.
So I first went up to a camp that, Roger, you were with, University of New Brunswick, right? And I went up to one of your UNB camps, and yeah, here we are like 20 years later, which is crazy. Roger's been involved in a ton of different aspects in the hockey world. One of more notable, I guess, or I'll let you tell me if it's more notable, the Quebec Major Junior League, right? You won a Memorial Cup, and I bring that up because we have the Memorial Cup starting tomorrow. Where for you guys listening, it'll be today. But yeah, you won a Memorial Cup in the Q with Shawinigan as their assistant general manager.
Yeah, I did. We were the host. The year was 2012. My team in Lewiston, Maine, the Maniacs, had just dissolved and went back to the Quebec Major Junior League as a franchise. We held a sort of a dispersal draft of all of our players that were on the team. We had an awesome group of kids. We had a very strong team, and we had taken St. John to the semifinal. They went on to win the Memorial Cup that year in 2011. And I kind of got the call the second it was announced to go to Shawinigan with my friend Martin Mondeau. And what a year we had! What a ride it was. I took a pile of players with me. Knew exactly kind of who to take. Michael Chaput, P.O. Moran, Kirill Kabanov, Brandon Gormley, Morgan Ellis, Jonathan Narbonne, like just a pile of kids. And we put a team together, and we're very fortunate. It was just it was a Cinderella type of thing. Lost our first game. That would be the Friday night game, the opening night, same as tonight for the viewers and listeners. And lost that game, and then we just dug in and fought our way back and defeated the London Knights in double overtime in the final game to win the Memorial Cup. And probably, I think it was probably one of the most joyous moments that I've had in sports. Our first national championship at UNB was pretty special. The World Championship in Italy for Team Canada was special, but I think the Memorial Cup is probably the most special one. And there were a few in between and after and before, and I think that might have been the big one, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because last week I misspoke. I had said that you won a Memorial Cup with Lewiston. It was with Shawinigan. But last week, so Bill Underwood, who's a frequent on this show, and he's with the Kitchener Rangers in the OHL, obviously, they're heading to the Memorial Cup. So him and I were talking about the Memorial Cup for anyone new to junior hockey or whatnot, that it's probably next to the Stanley Cup, the most prestigious trophy in hockey. Would you agree with that?
Oh, it is. I mean, there's no question it is the most prestigious cup, so to speak. I think the Olympic gold medal is starting to climb its way up there, although that's not necessarily a trophy, so to speak. But the Memorial Cup is hard. It's like the Stanley Cup. Like Nathan MacKinnon said, I think on Sports Desk a couple days ago, he said, I'm exhausted. Everybody's exhausted, but we're only halfway there. And so, the Stanley Cup is 4 solid rounds of hockey that all could technically go 7 games. You could be looking at 28 hockey games before you even get to the tournament. And then you got to go to the tournament, which is 2 weeks long. And then you're looking at another probably between 4 and 6 games there over a period of time. So when you stand there with the Memorial Cup after an entire season and all of that, you know that you've been through it. I mean, you've been through it, been fought through the injuries, and found a way to come out the other end, and just to be sort of committed to it. You gotta grind. It's a grind, no question. It's the biggest grind there is in sport. Stanley Cup ends after 4 series. The Memorial Cup starts after 4 series.
Well, and what's cool about it too, what Bill and I were talking about, is the fact that it's, a tournament of champions. So there's certain things that make up teams where, there's certain traits and qualities of championship caliber teams. Like we're talking about it with Kitchener, where they were winning the overtime games and that kind of stuff. Like those certain things that you start to see as an organization that are clicking, whether it's winning overtime games or, big penalty kills or getting that, that secondary scoring from the third and fourth line, those certain characteristics where it's like, okay, this team is special. It's firing on all cylinders. It has a chance to do something. And, that's your championship team. Well, this is a tournament of champions where every team, pretty much has those characteristics and those qualities. So like it's so unique and special in those regards too.
Yeah. The hockey is, and the hockey, by the way, Eric, is exceptional. Like it's an exceptional level of hockey. There's a pile of kids that'll be playing in a tournament starting today, that will be in the National Hockey League next year. So it shows you the quality of the event. You're seeing tomorrow's future stars. I mean, I recall after we won the Cup in 12. The Halifax Mooseheads won the Cup in 13, and they beat us out, or we beat them 4 times that year. I remember because at that point I was running the Moncton Wildcats, and they had MacKinnon and Drouin and a few other superstars. But the Memorial Cup, they beat Portland in the final. Seth Jones was the big D. And for anybody that remembers that, Nathan MacKinnon and Jonathan Drouin literally ran the show. Nathan MacKinnon was so good at the Memorial Cup at 17 years old that there was never a doubt that he was going to become one of the greatest players to ever play the game and be an outstanding player in the National Hockey League. And a funny story, there was some doubts as to whether he was going to go first or Seth Jones was going to go first or who was going to go first. And they hired Patrick Waugh out of our league that spring to become the new GM and head coach of the Avalanche. And the first thing Patrick Waugh said when he got there was, I don't even want, and if you know Patrick, you'd know that he doesn't take much to sitting down. And he said, don't even bring up the fact that there's anybody other than Nathan MacKinnon going to be the first overall pick. And boy, has that, I mean, because he knew he had to play against him for 2 full years in the Quebec League. And he knew that what kind of player he was going to be. And I mean, look at it now from 2013, to today, which hard to believe that Nathan's been in the league that long. I mean, he's a 95 born, and he's proven he was definitely the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, the top end talent is insane. And for you guys with Shawinigan, so you guys were the host team. What did you guys do with your time off? Like, do you feel like the time off helped? Was it a battle? Was it, again, something else that Bill and I were talking about last week?
It was everything.
Yeah.
It was everything. What I recall the most is, talking with Gardiner MacDougall at the time, who was my, my coach at UNB, and I was the general manager. And I remember calling him up and saying, look, we got a few weeks off. It's funny how hockey works. And he went over a plan, and he said, this is what I do. This is how I go about it. This is what I think you should do. And what do you got for injuries? We went through the injuries. Our best player, bar none, was Brandon Gormley. And a defenseman that had just come off of MVP at the World Junior. And Gorms had fractured his heel and missed like over 2.5 months from, say, middle of January till the end of the season, and was not himself. And so that time off that we had between those rounds, because as you know, St. John ended up winning our league that year. We had to play them in the Memorial Cup a couple times, actually, and beat them twice. And but they had to go right from a tough series right to Shawinigan, and we had the time off. It allowed Brandon to heal. We did a lot of team building. We did a lot of things, and I have some great stories about that event. I remember when we lost the first game, my phone rang, and immediately my cell phone rang, and it was Gardiner, and he said, Roger, he said, guys feel pretty down probably. And I said, well, I'm just going down there now. He said, whatever you do, he said, make sure your staff go into that dressing room on a high, and make sure that they see that you guys believe in this team, and that, because you've lost one game, you do not want to lose another, or you could be done. You'll never get them back up. He said, I thought you played pretty well for the time you had off. So I went down and I walk in the coach's office, and the heads are hanging, and everybody's head's hanging. And I said to them, I said, I remember, I said to them, boys, I said, I don't know if you can fake it or do whatever you got to do here, but you got to get yourselves up, because when you go in that dressing room, you got to show those boys that you 100% believe in them. Yeah. And so you got to be pumped up when you get in that dressing room. They walk in there all pumped up, and we just took off from there. And the boys, when they knew we believed in them, then they believed in themselves, and that's how it all transpired. I mean, it's quite a game, but as we all know, Eric, it is. I say it's 90% mental and 10% ability. And hockey is a very, very, because of the size of the organization, the team, and what it takes. It's a very, very big component is the mental side of the game, and that's why you got to really have a lot of things working for you to win a championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gardner's got to be one of the best coaches in junior hockey. I mean, I remember him from UNB, and then obviously now he's with Moncton with Leo. But I mean, Leo's never done anything but sing his praises, and obviously Gardner's work speaks for itself. But even any times I've seen any interviews or any social media, anything, he's just always so upbeat, positive, and just full of knowledge. I mean, he's got to be one of the best out there. Well, I mean, I obviously don't get me started on Gardiner, because I can start. I've been with him for 27 years now in hockey, and I can tell you, I will tell you this. First of all, Leo's such a good guy that he sings everybody's praises. So Leo's not going to say a bad word about anybody, but about Gardiner, he's correct. He was unique from the day I met him, 27 years ago, when he first got the job at UNB, and we had our first ice session with the kids away out in a little community called Stanley. And I thought when I walked away from the meeting, I said, whoa, he's unique. He's different. He's different than most people. But one of the things about Gardiner is that he's always learning, and he always believes that there's something to learn every day, and he's not wrong. Because in his first couple years with us, I mean, I'm not going to get into,
the details of this, Eric, but the reality of it is he's a different coach today than he was when we first started. Just like he preaches to the players about growing your game and growth and, getting better every day and, better every single time. And his other acronym is JGS, just getting started. He's got about 100 of them. And you'll find that he does practice what he preaches, because in his first few years, he wasn't the coach that he is today. He spends a lot of time trying to get better himself. And so he's a good coach. He's a great coach. He's a great motivator. He's a good human being, and he's got a really kind soul, but he's constantly trying to improve that, Eric. And kids don't necessarily believe adults all the time when they say these sort of things, but there's no experience like experience. And when you talk to a guy like Gardiner or different people that have been in the game a long time, experience is experience, and there's no experience like it. So you got to trust sometimes that these guys know what they're talking about and just believe what they're saying. And the legendary coaches, and I don't care if you're talking about Steve Kerr or who you're talking about, whatever the sport is, they've got they got history and they know what they're saying.
Yeah, well,
Gardner's one of them.
It seems like he's got like a good ability to connect with the players as well, which is so important, right? Because you can know everything there is to know about everything. If you can't connect with the person you're trying to get the information across to, you're useless.
Well, he's silly. Like and when I say silly, I mean he's silly because he understands that you've got to have fun. And I wish I had the ability to convince people of the significance of letting your kids have fun. And I use Connor Garland as a great example, because Connor obviously was with me for 4 years, and we still are close friends. We talk today, as a matter of fact. And Connor Garland loved hockey more than anybody I've ever seen. And as a kid who's not very big, because he's so super talented and his love of the game, he never stops trying to get better, and he's willing to put the time in. If you don't love something enough, you won't put the time in. So Gardiner's always been a guy, and, we've always preached that, as you know, Eric, in all of our camps. We had those drafts. We do different things. We tried to make you guys have fun and understand that the more fun you have, the harder you will work. And parents that take away the fun from their children by being too hard on them or making the game stressful for them because of the fact that they're upset with them and so on and so forth, are not doing their kids any favors. They are hurting them, actually. And the reality of it is, you take the fun away from it for a child, they will never be the best that they can be, because they won't put the work in because they don't love it. And you got to love what you're doing. And, Gardiner, Mr. Robert Irving, people like that. Two of the most passionate human beings I ever met in my life when it comes to hockey. And Robert was he was my direct boss, owner of the team in Moncton for 7 years. Robert and I were close. We talked over 2,000 times. Gardner and I were talking about this the other day with Robert's passing on Tuesday morning, just passed. And, he's a legend. I mean, he is a complete legend in this country, province, Atlantic Canada, and even down through New England, for that matter, with the Irving family and the Irving name. And every time you see a Midland truck going on the side of on the highway, 95 or whatever the highway is, I always think of him. But I know this, that nobody will ever outwork those guys. And the reason that nobody will ever outwork them is because they absolutely love what they do. It's that simple. They love it. And so they'll work harder than anybody at it. And that's Gardner's number one thing, is how hard he will work. He will be down in New England looking for the absolute best players that New England has to offer, the Tommy Belils and the different Chudnitskys and some of these kids that have gone on to Moncton to have crazy success. He'll be down there looking for the next one, because that's what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And my condolences to the Irving family. Leo obviously called me this week to tell me, and Another person that Leo's never had anything but great things to say about, and I know what you just told me a few minutes ago, but yeah, no, it sounds like, I never met Mr. Irving, but everything I've heard was just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's hard to. We'll be going to a funeral next week for Mr. Irving and his wake and so on, and it's hard to believe in a way. He had the best of treatment. He spent a lot of time at the Lay Clinic in Boston, and cancer couldn't be beaten in this case. And in Robert's case, 30 years. This is the 30th anniversary of the Wildcats. He never misses a game. Never misses a game on the road. He's always watching it or flying in to see it. And again, I worked alongside him. There were days where he wasn't happy with me, and there were days he was. That's just who he was. He just loved to win, loved the game. And one year we had 12 U.S. players on our team, most of them from New England. Connor and Cam Askew and the Klima brothers. And I used to work hard on that New England market. And that was in the days, Eric, when I had to compete against NCAA. And I just can't imagine what my life would have been like if I could have walked into a house in Connecticut and said, to the Petroselli family, listen, come play in Moncton this year. And then when you're ready, you can go to Quinnipiac in 2 years, and you don't lose any eligibility. It would have been a lock. They would have came.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
What's the? Oh, sorry, Roger.
No, that's. I was just saying. I worked in it in the time when I had to compete with these tremendous schools, the Boston colleges, and all the schools for that matter down in the area. And it was difficult to explain to a kid why he should go play for the Moncton Wildcats versus go play for the Boston College Eagles. And it was very difficult. The odd guy did, obviously, but Jack Eichel would have been a great example. Jack Eichel would have played in our league for sure if it wasn't for the simple fact that, he was going to Boston University. But the CHL is, it's the number one junior hockey league in the world, and all the kids would like to have played in it, but they weren't going to give their eligibility up. And now it's all changed. Such a different world with this new system.
Oh, it's crazy, and it's just the ripple effect has been crazy too. What do you find, like, boots on the ground up there? What do you find the temperatures like in that region in terms of the Canadian players that are playing major junior now? Are they like, how many of them are bought into, hey, I want to go NCAA after I'm done in the Quebec Major Junior League?
All of them.
All like that pretty much is the mentality. Like everybody, like the consensus is, hey, we do want to explore this. Because I figured there would still be a good amount of guys that were like, hey, nah, not really for me. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna play out in the major junior as long as I can, and then if it's ECHL, I'll go. If it's AHL, I'll go. Whatever. Like we'll see what happens. But college, the rule's nice, but college still isn't for me. I thought there'd be a good amount of those guys. You're saying those guys pretty much are few and far between?
Well, there is a percentage of kids that, no matter what, that don't necessarily, Eric, want to go on to college and play college hockey and even get a college degree. I'm in the junior hockey business and own the Lightning. And I can say that I'll have an exit interview with a kid, and he may say, look, I'm going to plumbing school. I'm going to electrical school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And they don't go to college. They go on to, the trades and so on and so forth. Some kids say, I'm going to go to the East Coast League because they don't like school. There is a percentage of people who don't like school, obviously. I didn't love university. I kind of did because I was the Labatt rep on campus at the time. So I had the perfect job and the perfect life. Who wouldn't loved it? In those days, it was different. Driving around in the Labatt Blue vehicle or whatever and having access to all of that. But that's all changed. But my point is that there are people who don't necessarily want to go to college. They just want to play hockey. And I mean, I know lots of kids that have gone and are still playing, like, still going over to Europe and playing it out over there and never did get a degree. I also know a bunch that I call it the playing guilt-free phenomena, which is get your college education, then go play pro hockey, and you play completely guilt-free, because the second you're done, you've got a university education or a college degree to fall back on.
Yeah.
And that is a good feeling to have that, to be able to say, and I was the same way, and it wasn't necessarily about hockey, but I joined the RCMP, but I wasn't joining the RCMP until such time as I had my college diploma, right? And so, so when I joined the RCMP, I had a business degree and from college. So no matter whatever happened in my life, whether it was, I didn't stay in policing or do whatever, I just knew that I had that degree to fall back on. And if I walked into an office and gave them the resume, on it said you have a college education. There's a difference. Now, whether or not it's everything, I don't know. I think a lot of people say in, the business world that a college education is the most significant thing about it is that it's proof that you're willing to work hard and complete something. And so that's kind of always what you're looking for in a good employee too. So I will always recommend school, but now that this whole NCAA thing has changed completely, there are kids that will go play in the CIS, which is, a great education from one of the great schools in this country, or kids that will say, I'd love to go down and play in the United States and go to one of the great schools in the United States, but they keep playing hockey.
Yeah. But you would say most kids. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Roger.
No, I had a goaltender, Eric, by the name of Alex Dubois, and he was from Montreal. I had him for 9 seasons, Eric, in a row. He was my goalie for 9 years, which is unheard of. I had him 4 in junior, and then he joined UNB for 5. So I had him 9 years in a row.
That's awesome.
So it's like, it's crazy. Like I could see him making saves in my sleep. He was my only goaltender. And, I've had a bunch of good goalies, but my point is that when we won the Memorial Cup, he was 17. I took him to Moncton with me for the next 3 years, which made it 4. And then and then we worked him hard, and he came to UNB and won 2 national championships there. So it was, of those 9 years, we won 3 national titles together. And this is how much he loved to play net. He just won another big championship over in Europe. I saw the other day on Facebook him hosting the cup and congratulated him. And, he's getting up there. He's getting up there in age, Eric. He's in his 30s now.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
He's getting old. Yeah.
No, that's great. But you would say most guys that are currently playing in the Quebec Major Junior League, like those guys do want to play NCAA.
That's the goal. They do. But they want to play in the NHL first.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. A large percentage, like, my nephew, Jake Allen, like, for example, he was a really, really good student. And I remember when him and Zach were little, going down to the States, and Zach, my son, went to Lawrence Academy at prep school, and then he played in the Quebec League and so on. But I remember Jake getting all kinds of offers to go down and play, like in different prep schools and things like that. And he just kind of kept his path going. And like, if there was ever a guy that I thought, would go on to university and get a university education, it'd be Jake, mainly because he was such a good student. But the NHL kind of got in the way of his education because he was so good and he was so outstanding, that when it was all said and done, he went right to the, Peoria, the American Hockey League. And, him and Ben Bishop were there together. And they, for the Rivermen. And then, the story, he ends up in the National Hockey League for the next 12 years or whatever it's been. And he's still there.
He's here in New Jersey.
So there's a guy that, I mean, there's a guy right there, Eric, that, and he's just one of those guys. He doesn't have to worry necessarily about an education ever. Again, his education is life. His education is sport. His education is hockey. He was on the panel for the first game of the Vegas-Colorado game, Hockey Night in Canada, and he sure sounds like a guy that's been to university for 5 years, because he's become so educated in life by playing in the National Hockey League for that long. So it's everybody has a different path. Everybody, it's not the same for everybody. Connor Garland had a full ride to Penn State, and he gave that up to go to play for the Moncton Wildcats. Connor Garland doesn't have to worry, ever again financially. Doesn't mean he doesn't want his own children to go to school and get an education. It doesn't mean that he doesn't go back to school someday. But the reality of it is, you have those intersections in life, and you go right or you go left, or you go up or you go down. And whatever turn you happen to take usually determines your path. And in a lot of cases, it's a different path for different people. But this has seen a real change in the sport, in the education side of it, the ability to come up, play in the, CHL, whether it's in the Western League or the Ontario League or the Quebec Maritime League, and then still carry on with your education at a fine school in the U.S.
I mean, there's so much opportunity. There's so much opportunity there now for players. All right, and we'll call it here. If any of you guys are going to be at the Montreal Meltdown, May 28th to 31st, go say hi to Roger. Roger, you'll be there all weekend, right? Do you still have openings on your teams?
Yeah, I mean, there's always room for a couple auditions. A lot of teams have 8 and 5. Some have 7 and 5. So we never go above 9 players. This is year 28 for me. I cannot hardly believe it. Started going up there when Zach and Jake and Taylor MacDougall and all those guys were little. Gardiner and I were taking our little guys up there. And now, we've seen so many guys go through there. One year I was there about, a number of years ago, and one of my teams, this kid comes along, plays on it. Just a kid. He's a defenseman. Not bad. Didn't pay much attention to him, but I look over in the roster, and then all of a sudden, next thing I know, he's on the Montreal Canadiens, wasn't drafted Arbor Jackeye, played on Team Finland in the Meltdown. And I'm like, how does this stuff happen? But, Taylor Hall played there. You wouldn't believe the players that have literally, I don't think you would believe the players that have come through there. I remember when Gabriel Landeskog came over and played for me there, Couturier, some Jaden Schwartz, some of the different guys. It's crazy when you think about it. These are now veterans these are the veteran players in the National Hockey League.
Well, time flies.
These guys, it's just,
I couldn't believe, like when we started the episode and I said it was like 20 years ago that you and I met. I'm like, just crazy, mind boggling.
It is. And I can tell you what, like, I don't forget names. I often forget people, but I'd never forget a name. And when Leo touched base with me a few years back about this friend of his named Eric Swan, I went, Leo, I think I know that kid. He said, yes, you know that kid. Because it would be Leo that probably got you up here. Anyway, Leo's 84 years old, and I can tell you what, he acts 24. You'll see him every time on the rinks.
Yeah, every time I talk to him, he's like, I just got off the ice. I just got done playing hockey. I just got done playing golf. Like, it's incredible.
Listen, in our little friendship group, now he's my business partner, so he owns the team with me in Bathurst, as you know, the Lightning.
Yeah, for you guys listening, Shallow Lightning, you've heard Leo talk about it before in the Maritime Junior A Hockey League. So really cool setup, by the way. You guys got a lot of really cool things going there, and so that's another really great opportunity for players. But we'll talk another day, maybe, Eric, about that, and talk about the difference between Junior A hockey and Major Junior and the opportunity that is here in Junior A. The biggest thing is costs. I mean, it just doesn't cost. We fund it. So you come and you play
an elite level of hockey, and it doesn't cost you anything because we get fans. Like we had 2,700 at our last game.
Yeah, no team fee, no billet fee, right? Like just completely free.
Yep. Yep. And it's free to the family.
Free to the family.
Not necessarily free to the owners every
Not
day.
to you and Leo. Actually, quite the opposite.
Some days, yes, there's the odd year where it does cost us a little bit, but that's our hobby. That's our passion. So that's why we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, sounds great, Roger. And yeah, guys, say hi to Roger at the Meltdown, or if you want to inquire about the Meltdown, what's your website, Roger?
Oh, well, it's just Montreal Meltdown. You punch that in and it's good to go.
Okay. All right. Yep. Sounds good. Yeah, Roger, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. And look forward to maybe another time on a couple other different topics. There's lots to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, never stops, especially in this ever-changing landscape. But that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Remember, the conversation always continues in the Discord. You can get there from the link in the description of this episode. And until next time, I will see you guys soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Swan Hockey Podcast. We remind you that season pass points are available to listeners. For more information, please visit www.swanhockey.io. Until next time.